Good evening, everybody. And tonight we've got the great pleasure of having Mark Sebastian back with us, and he is very adept at option trading programs. So I've put his background in the chat room. So without wasting any more of his time, Mark, welcome to the Candlestick Forum. We're anxious to see what you got for us tonight.
Good to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. You know, I'm a big fan. My dad's from Pittsburgh, so I hold a little special place in my heart for the Pittsburgh area. So, big fan. Today we're going to talk about how I use volatility to trade. And let me tell you a little bit about myself before we begin. And remind you that this is for educational purposes only, should not be considered investment advice. Options carry significant risk, blah, blah, blah. Basically, if you lose money, it's your fault, not mine. Just about my history, I was a floor trader for about 10 years. I traded on the American Stock Exchange in New York, and then the Chicago Board Options Exchange in Chicago. After about 10 years, I left the floor, and I started Option Pit. We are a education and consulting firm. We work with individuals as well as money managers and investment advisors, teaching them how to trade options like a professional and kind of how to evaluate how options work. With money managers, I'll go in and kind of help them do option implementation strategies and optimization stuff. That's more consultancy stuff. I also run a couple of small hedge funds, one that is a volatility-based hedge fund, the other one that is we call it hedged equity. So we run an option program and then have a proprietary hedging system underneath. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek about how I think, what I do, and what I look for in a trade, and then I'm going to kind of show you some stuff that I use to find options that I want to trade, both buying and selling. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what is volatility, what are its forms, how to use vol to make options decisions, how to make basic buy and sell option decisions, and then I'm going to teach you how to, show you a way to maybe hunt for some options and show you a trade that I've done recently that worked out pretty well. Just a real brief example, and we'll be happy to cover more. If we have time, I'll spend a little bit looking at trade, looking at a stock or two that maybe you guys are interested in. So, let's begin. What is volatility? Volatility is movement. It's used to, there's a lot of things that are measured in volatility terms. Some people would say our president is volatile. Some people would say our Congress is volatile. Some people would say that my wife is volatile. It's just things that can move up and down quickly. So in terms of stocks, volatility is how much a stock moves, or how much we expect it to move. Things that don't move very much are not volatile. Think outside of PSG, most utilities or things like that. And then things that do move around a lot are volatile. Real simple, right? I mean, that's not exactly groundbreaking. So now that we've kind of just established real briefly what volatility is, let's talk about how we look at it. And the industry standard for the options market is a term called GARCH, which is a fun acronym. I forget exactly what it stands for. It's stochastic something or other. Let me look it up real fast. It stands for autoregressive conditional heteroscedasticity. All right. So It's general. So the G is generalized, autoregressive, conditional, heteroscedasticity. So what does that mean? That is a fancy. I'm a scientist that needs to write a paper for, the University of Pennsylvania, and I don't want to simply call it looking back at how much things have moved from close to close. But that is what GARCH is. We look back over the last 10 days, 20 days, out to several years, and look at how much something moves in the stock market from close to close. So, for instance, if I pull up Apple, I'll pull up Apple right now on my little, Apple. So Apple today went up 92 cents. So that 92 cents of movement is going to be measured from day to day as a volatility number. The day before, it closed 153.07. The following day, it closed 154.94. So movement of $1.87. That's going to get measured as movement as well. So what GARCH does is look back at the aggregate number of days and how much it's moving from day to day and calculates a volatility. So that is kind of what that represents. So let's just kind of briefly take a look at it, and we in the business call it HV, historical volatility. That's a lot. Don't you think historical volatility is a lot easier to say than generalized, autoregressive, conditional, heteroscedasticity? Personally, I think that's easy. That's just me. So what I'm showing you is a chart from LiveVol Pro, and it's showing you in white what the movement was over the last 10 days in this name. This is the SPX, the S&P 500 options. The blue line, the light blue line, parties, yeah. The light blue line is the last 20 days. The dark blue line is, I believe, the last 60, and the purple is kind of the last year. So, obviously, one thing you should notice, actually, what do you notice? What is different between 10-day and the 1-year HV? What do you notice as a differential there? Do they look similar? No. Well, you see that 10-day has a lot of ups and downs, a lot of movement, and the longer term one looks relatively flat. It's a pretty good measure of kind of the long-term trend. And one of the reasons why is because, and this isn't a slide, but one of the major assumptions that holds all of the volatility world together is that volatility has mean reverting characteristics. What does mean reverting characteristics mean? Well, what that stands for is that when it's moving around a lot, it will tend to stop moving as much. And when it's not moving around very much, it will start moving again. And that purple line, that long-term purple line, is really where you can set kind of the near-dated average. So right now, if you look at, let's say, that white line, look at that white line. So see this white line here. It's moving around a lot, and it's been over that 360 for a very long time. Prior to that, it was underneath for a very long time. And then prior to that, it was over. But in the end, over this period, you get a really nice flat line. Think about this. In the last year, we've seen the VIX, we've seen volatility go really high, think February and last December. And we've also seen it extremely low. So mean reversion is one of the pieces that holds us together. When vol is low, it will eventually go higher, and when vol is high, it will go lower. If you take one thing away from this webinar, take that away, is that there's this mean reverting characteristic. All right, so now I want to talk about implied volatility. So historical volatility, and there are other forms of historical volatility. We look at a lot of different forms. There's ATR, there's oscillators, lots of different ways of pulling together historical volatility. The industry standard, as I stated, is SARCH, but people use all kinds of swift ways to figure out how much the market is moving. So next up is implied volatility, right? And so before I discuss what implied volatility, who knows what an option pricing model is? The option pricing model is what I used as a market maker to determine, Black-Scholes is one, to determine whether an option was, what the value of an option was. And it uses 5 main characteristics. It uses price of the underlying, timed expiration. It uses carrying costs, so that's interest minus dividends. It uses strike price, and the pricing model uses what? What's the last factor in the option pricing model? All right, so we've got stock, strike, timed expiration, and carry. What's the last one? Bill says volatility. Yep. But what kind of volatility? What kind of volatility does the pricing model use? All right, see, that is where, somebody said the pricing model uses implied volatility. Believe it or not, Black-Scholes isn't written to use implied volatility. It's written to use forward volatility. What is forward volatility? Forward volatility is how much a stock is going to move between now and when the option expires. So how much is Apple going to move between now and when February options expire on February 15th? Anybody here know? If you do, call me and we'll make a bunch of money. No, we don't know. So that was it, is that the model was actually built on not having one of the characteristics. So we came up with this term called implied volatility. And implied volatility is what the market thinks. Yeah, it's a guesstimate. What the market thinks a stock or asset is going to move. It's their best guess. It tries to be predictive, but it's not always predictive. In fact, it's right about half the time. And it tends to be a little expensive. So this volatility, the implied volatility, can be indexed. So who's heard of the VIX? All the VIX is a measure of S&P 500 implied volatility as an index. It just pulls a bunch of prices from options. So an options trading price is actually where we get implied volatility. So think about it. It's just a differential equation with a missing factor. So we have the answer and most of the inputs, and then we solve for an input, and that's what gives us implied volatility. So looking at implied volatility, this is the S&P 500 30-day implied volatility. This is live vol again, and the red line is implied volatility. And what it shows you is where the market thinks the S&P is going to move on any given day, over the next 30 days. Right? And again, implied volatility is assumed to have a mean. For the year, what do you something like that maybe? But if we go over years and years and years, the long-term average of the VIX is about 17. So this is the key, mean reversion. A stock price can go anywhere and stay there, and while volatility can go anywhere, it cannot stay there. It will revert over time. Implied volatility and realized volatility will revert with time. This is the key. Again, if you only remember one thing, this is it. So let's talk about directional trading. If all I do is kind of pay attention to these, where implied volatility is, I can structure a trade around where implied volatility is in options. And I'll have much better odds of success. So let's talk about how to get long a stock. There's two main ways to do it, right? We're not counting spreads, right? I know that, I don't want to dig into that. That's basically 2 or 3 presentations. But when you want to get long and you're just trading single options, there's only 2 good ways to do it. And one is to sell puts. The other one is to buy calls. So despite what you're told, there are perfectly accepted times to do both. Right? Anybody here been told that buying options is a losing proposition? Yeah, that's incorrect. That is absolutely incorrect. There are great reasons to buy options. I actually buy more options than I sell. Well, Steve's a smart guy if he told you that you should buy options sometimes, because you should. Any clown that says, never buy an option, you should just immediately turn them off and ignore them, because they don't know what they're talking about, or they're selling you something stupid. They're just trying to give you the easy story. So, just to kind of quickly put this into context, what you'll hear is, 70% of the time, 80% of the time, options end up out of the money. So, you've got an 80% probability of being right if you sell an option. Right? What's missing from me telling you that? What is the missing piece of that discussion? The missing piece is how much you make when you're right and how much you make when you're wrong. Statistically, when a sold option loses, it loses a lot more than it makes when it wins. So does that make sense? So if I win 9 times out of 10, but when I lose on the 10th time, I lose 15 times what I make on my wins. Should I be selling options? What do you think? Right, pretty easy. So let's look. Let's look at when you should buy and when you should sell. Short puts. A short put is long delta and short vega. Vega means that it wants implied volatility to go down. And what makes IV drop? A decrease in movement or a decrease in expected movement. So when has a short put worked really well? And I'll give you a prime example. So I do some freelance writing for thestreet.com. All right. IV often drops because HV drops, movement, or, we're expecting vol to slow down. So I sell a put when I think the underlying won't go down. So that means it won't go down. Does that mean it'll necessarily go up? Right? I think that selling puts is kind of like playing for a tie in hockey. Right? I just want the point. So here's a prime example. This is Apple. And like I said, I do some freelance writing for thestreet.com. And I want to pull up a trade. I'm just going to read this to you guys so I don't have to turn this off. Who's heard of this company, Apple? Yeah, they've had a rough go of it lately. But, after they got absolutely slammed, after they warned, what's kind of happened? It just kind of stuck around. It's kind of sat there. So kind of seeing how it had moved. With the stock trading about 145, I suggested selling a July 145 put at $13.50. And I can drop, I don't know that you guys can see this link because it's behind a paywall, but this was on January 3rd. Yeah, they make fruit. And what I said was, I don't think the stock's going to go that much lower. And I think the implied volatility is too high. So I like selling a July 145 put at $13.50. Well, here we are today, and two things have happened. So I took this chart that you're looking at today. This red line being implied volatility, what's happened? What's happened here lately? It's gone down. What has the stock done? It's gone up, but not like catastrophically up, right? So where are my July puts now? What do you think? You think I've made some money? Think it was a good sale? The July 145 puts, and these were 14 days ago, that I said sell at $13.50, are offered at $6.80. They've lost half their value with 7 months to expire in 2 weeks. Why did I make so much money? Can't just be that the stock went up. That helped. It did. It definitely helped the stock went up a little bit. But yeah, the vol fell out of bed. Got absolutely wrecked. So I used volatility to work to my advantage and come up with a sale. So if you're not looking at implied volatility and you're selling options, do you think you're missing some information? Do you think I would say, hey, everybody, sell the 145 put at 680 now? No, that would be ridiculous. That reminds me, I'm going to mention that I would close this trade now that I'm looking at it, but not put that down. So, it's you got to look. Do I look back at 30-day implied vol? I use 30-day implied vol, but I look back years to kind of see where it belongs. So now, what about long calls? When I'm trading long calls, what I'm looking for is actually an increase in implied volatility. What gave you the hint that it would drop? The fact that it was too high. The fact that it was so high and news was out. Right? The question is, what gives you a hint that vol would drop? When all the news is out and implied volatility remains high, it will generally drop. That make sense? Good. So long calls. A long call is long exposure to the market, and now it wants implied volatility to go up. It wants movement. So you're actually hoping for a stock to move. You're betting that a stock's going to go up, right? You're the hockey team that's gunning for the win in overtime. This is playoff hockey, right? There are no ties. I'm not even that big of a hockey fan, but it's a really good analogy for implied volatility. So here's GLD, and I want you to notice something. Take a look at GLD vol down here. And take a look here. So, irrespective of your view of gold, if I thought gold was going to go higher, with that red line where it is, do I want to be selling premium? Do I want to be a vol seller? What do you guys think? No. Yeah, that's not a put sale. You kidding me? No, if I think gold's going up, I'm buy calls. Yeah, when it wasn't relatively low, it was historically low, believe it or not. Vol's gotten cheap again. I think gold's probably done. If I thought gold was gonna revert the other way, would I want to sell? You think I want to sell an option or buy an option? Looking where it is now. I'd want to buy options. It's cheap. All right, so let's talk about getting short. It's kind of the opposite, right? If IB is high and someone thinks the stock's going to go down, sell calls. I'm not really a huge call seller. That's the one thing I really don't do because of the unlimited upside. But if I think a stock's going to go down, so I use call spreads, obviously. And if I think volatility is low, I'm going to buy puts. So here is Apple again. And there were a lot of times where if you thought vol was going to drop, or if you thought that the stock was going to drop, that you would want to sell premium, like right here. or basically this entire strip. This is that same exact chart we were looking at when we were looking for options to puts to sell. Obviously, it works the same here. There's lots of spots to sell calls here. All right, now, let's talk about buying puts. Let's talk about IBM. I'll tell you, IBM is the poster child for put buying. It is the poster child for put buying. Every time it takes a dive, so look right here, it keeps going. And typically, after it drops, they oversell premium. I'll tell you, IBM is eventually going to be sub 100. It is so mismanaged that their entire board should be fired. And it is a name that I think I really like to drop. And what I do is I wait for premium to get really cheap, and I develop a spread that pushes me toward buying options. So, what now? Let's say, what is low and what is high? What I've kind of showed you is some simple ways to take longer dated directional opinions. But what about kind of 1, 2, and 3 day trades or 5 day trades? How do I look at volatility? Well, I want to show you, I want to kind of point out, look at this and look at this. What am I seeing there? I'm looking at, in this one, this is, I like to call it Blood Bath and Beyond. This is Bed Bath and Beyond. Right. They had good, decent earnings, got a nice couple of days of pop, and have since started dying. So do I think that I like 2 lines at the bottom? The red is implied volatility. The blue is 20-day historical. So if I'm looking at near-dated movement and I'm looking at the cost of options, do you think I can develop a system to maybe buy options in one direction or the other? The red is 30-day implied volatility. Do you think I can develop an approach to finding, when the red options are way above the blue, or when the blue, which is movement, historical volatility, when movement's way above the red, do you think I could use that to my advantage? I mean, one would need way more information. One would need way more information, but that blue is movement, and the red is what we expect movement to be going forward. If something's moving around and options are really cheap, I think I could probably add some other stuff to it and make it easier to see what's actually happening. The answer is yes, which is why we developed kind of on this whole principle of buying cheap and selling expensive options, we developed, a scanner to actually find cheap and expensive options within a given option, within a given name. So I want to point you toward Edge Hunter. And what Edge Hunter is, I'm going to, this is a little 3-minute video on Vimeo. And this is a trade that I developed using our software from January 3rd. And I want everybody to take, 2 minutes, kind of watch the video. And what you'll notice is we've got this software that's based on Excel, and it pulls data from LiveVol, right? The LiveVol system that I have here. So I've got this kind of, professional traders use a program to evaluate implied volatility and where option markets are trading, and the program's called LiveVol Pro. So what we've done is filtered out that data even more to develop trades that are high probability. So we used, and we called the product Edge Hunter. So what Edge Hunter does is it finds options that are too expensive and finds options that are too cheap within an individual name one at a time. So I can type in Best Buy and find all the options that are too expensive and too cheap in Best Buy and trade them off each other. So on the 3rd, I used our proprietary software, and you can actually see it working. It doesn't work at night, unfortunately, because it's designed for a live trading environment. So I wish I could kind of show you more of it. But on the 3rd, I used it in Nike. I thought Nike looked like an interesting trade. If you're watching the video, we found a straddle, which is a non-directional play in Nike, expiring next Friday. We bought a straddle for $4.40. And what I want to point out is how much it was worth within a few days. So without taking a directional opinion at onset, this was pulled Monday. I made, $4.40. It was worth $5.10. So we made 70 cents without taking a directional opinion. Let's see. That would be almost 20% in about 8 days without ever taking a directional opinion on a stock. What do you think about kind of doing that over that period? Not bad. Yeah, the product pays for itself within the first week or two. It's not cheap, but you're going to really like the way it works. JJ, do you use the product? Do you like it? All right, but you can see how cool it is. So what our proprietary software will scan a stock's first 9 expirations, and it'll figure out if the option is too expensive, too cheap, or if it's fair value. In fact, it breaks it down into buy options, day trade options. This option has momentum, which means it's moving in a direction, or this option should be sold. So let's think about this. Steve has some of the best candlestick stuff on the planet. wouldn't it be nice to have something that confirms, adds to what you're trying to do? If I gave you something that said you should day trade this, or this stock has a lot of momentum, and then you looked at candles and it confirmed it, or the other way around, do you think it would help you make money? All right. So here's kind of what I'm putting together. Yeah, it will, trust me. Here's what I'm putting together. You're going to get the best scanning software for active traders. This is years of development. So every year I do a big trader summit. Steve came last year. It was awesome. Good hanging out with him. And last year what I did was I took my 50 best traders and basically surveyed them for everything in their head, everything they want to see, and how they want to trade. Then me and Andrew, who works with me, 20 plus years of experience, developed a scanner that finds options that are too expensive, too cheap, fairly valued, have momentum, or are good for day trading. We also developed a second spreadsheet that does butterflies. Now, you may not know what butterflies are, but by the time we're done, you will. Right? I'm taking these two spreadsheets, each would sell for $3,000 a piece. Plus, I'm combining it with 3 hours of personal one-on-one mentoring, 1 month of access to our chat room, 1 month of access to our volatility newsletter, which covers VIX, VXX, and SPY and QQQ only, all volatility based, and 1 month of the proprietary software LiveVol Pro that I was using to pull all those screenshots from. So all told, that package is worth well over $7,500. I'm going to give it to you guys for $19.97. You go to optionpit.com/SBHU, which is for Steve Bigelow Edge Hunter. SBEH. And if you purchase the software by Monday, that's the 21st, I will rebate back an extra $500. You can use that to, come and meet Steve in Chicago in June when he comes out for some Cubs games and we go and hang out. And if you try it and you hate it, I'll give you you just promise me you deleted it, and we'll give you your money back. I don't want your money if you're not happy. So, pretty darn risk-free. Any questions for me? Did you learn anything? Hopefully. Whether you buy the software or not, software or not, hopefully I made you a better trader. Oh, maybe the link's not working, huh? 1 second here, let me see. I will fix that right now. Oh, got it. Try the link now. I had it hidden. Try the link now. So LiveVol Pro is a big, massive data service that pulls in all kinds of data. When you're someone like me, I can spend 2 hours looking at options and looking for trades. What Edge Hunter does is, now that I know what I'm looking for, it pulls good trades into a funnel. So think about what LiveVol Pro is pouring water into a funnel, and then the funnel is actually slowly showing me what I actually want. Edge Hunter is the Brita filter of your tap. In general, do spreads actually, believe it or not, you can increase the effective IV using spreads. there's a lot more to implied volatility than I was able to go through today. Spreads, if anything, if you're going to trade spreads, then you actually you need a bigger understanding of implied volatility because it will help you. It stands for volatility buying and selling. And it's good for day trade. It's great for day trading calls and puts in SPX. It'll tell you whether it's a good day to day trade or not. It'll actually tell you that there's movement today. It should work now. I fixed it. Try this. Now try it. I think that'll work now. One second here. I'm sorry. Oh, just try it like this. I'm sorry. Try that. Now it should work. Copy the link and drop it into your actual browser. That seems to be the issue. Yep, that's the issue. Copy it directly into your browser, and it'll work. Does that make sense? The issue is clicking through from Webinar. Sorry about that. Yep. So this was actually behind my paywall, and I opened it up for you guys so you can see the video. It should work if you drop it into your copy this link, drop it into your browser, and you'll be able to watch it. The issue is just clicking through. Any other questions for me? Or do y'all want to take a minute to watch the video and then ask me questions? Thanks, Jim. Jim confirmed it works to copy and paste. So, and again, if you use it and then you're like, this is crap, I'll give you your money back. I don't want, and then the least you'll say is, you know what, that guy's honest, which is, to me, the most important thing. Also, why I like Steve. You know, if we can't be honest and have integrity, what do we have? I hope I will be, CB. Any other questions for me about volatility? I'm happy to Tell you what, somebody throw out one stock in a direction, and we can kind of here. I'll do a screen share. Make it work. Goldman Sachs bearish. I love Square. So here, and I'll just pull from Liveball. Let's do Square. And again, if you only pick one thing, so look at implied volatility and look at how much Square is moving around. What do you think? What do you think I'm going to say? Should you buy calls or should you sell puts? What do you think, just based on what I've said in the past? I'm a call buyer. Oh, earnings are out, I believe. I wish iHunter worked right now. It's closed, unfortunately. But if you think it's really going to move, the cheapest option on the board is the Fab 80 calls. Yeah, in this case, I'm a call buyer. All right. Sorry, Richard. All right, Steve. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure. And next time I'm out to Pittsburgh, you're going to take me to Kennywood, right?
That's right. Yep, the historic Kennywood.
I love Kennywood. My favorite roller coaster in the world is Thunderbolt.
No, I've only been out there once, and that was probably back when I was in high school. So it's more historic at this point.
My dad worked at Kennywood for a while. He actually lived about 6 blocks from there.
All right. Well, thank you again. Very good information. Everybody, take a look at the video and look at his offer. Like,
thanks, everybody.
Yeah. The one thing about Mark is you're going to get more than your money's worth when you're doing his stuff. So, Mark, thank you very much, and thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Get out in the snow. We'll see you in the chat rooms.